Usually we would start by looking back at the previous weekend. We will get to the previous weekend and where that leaves Liverpool in the title race. But the big talking point surrounding Liverpool, but also with wider implications, is that David Coote video. I'm sure most people have seen it now. I mean, it blew up. It got well over 30 million views within a matter of hours on social media. It was unbelievable. It was shocking. If no one has seen it, if someone hasn't seen it yet, basically very derogatory comments about Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool from Premier League referee David Coote. We need to stress that it hasn't yet been verified, but the report suggests that David Coote is accepting that it's real, but doesn't necessarily remember the incident which took place where he said it. So yeah, it's still unverified, and a investigation is going on, and he's been suspended for now. So that's the situation. I must say, when I was watching it, David, I thought this cannot be real, because we haven't seen anything like that before. You know what they can do with fakes now. You wouldn't think in a million years a Premier League referee would get caught being recorded saying that sort of stuff. So I thought it couldn't be real, but it looks like it is now. I mean, first of all, what did you make of it? It was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, stunned, really. It's, as you say, you just wouldn't expect it would be real. But you know, the thing that initially popped into my mind was, I know AI is getting pretty good, but that would have been one of the most impressive versions I've ever seen for someone who's not in the public eye that much, where there'd be that much source material to make that. And yeah, it'd be a lot of resource to put on undermining a referee, really, to be honest. So yeah, stunned, really. It's just, you know, I think the main takeaway really I've had from it, and one thing I want to kind of push against is, you know, you're seeing it flying around social media now, conspiracy theories and suggestions that he's intentionally undermined Liverpool, or, you know, even that subconscious bias has affected his performances against Liverpool. I never buy into that, to be honest, because I just think, look, these are professional referees, and you know, if you harbored a grudge against a certain club, it would be so hard to hide that you were doing that intentionally. And you know, every club, you know, you can pull out all these suggestions. Well, he made this decision, but I think every club up and down the league could be able to do that with not just David Coote, but every referee in the Premier League. So I don't think they harbour grudges against every single club. I think I don't buy into that. And clearly, you know, what he said, I would also push the idea that, you know, he's probably saying what a lot of referees think as well. I mean, if I was stood on the touchline and Jurgen Klopp was speaking to me in the way that he did so many officials, I wouldn't take to it kindly. And I'd probably be coming home and saying to my wife at the end of the day, oh, I can't stand that fella. He's awful to me, and I'm not his biggest fan. And, you know, and I think that's fair enough. And we have to accept that as humans, that is how they're going to feel, because, you know, Jurgen Klopp wasn't great with referees. And, you know, a lot of Premier League managers aren't great with referees in the way that they speak to them. So we've got to accept that can happen. But, and this is the big but, and this is why I think David Coote is probably in a lot of trouble, is that you can't have videos like that coming out where it kind of publicly undermines the trust. You can't allow those conspiracy theories to have any sort of anything that slightly backs them up, or suggests that the referee isn't trying to be impartial in a professional environment. As I say, I personally am sure that he is, and I think probably makes good and bad decisions for every club. But it just is, you know, in terms of that professional environment, you cannot be seen to be making those types of comments. And I think that is really going to cost him, to be honest, which is, you know, it's kind of sad in a way, because I think, you know, he's clearly shown some trust in people in terms of that video being sent out there, and that's been undermined, and that's unfortunate. But as I say, this is it's a massive industry, football, and you have to at least have the sheen of impartiality, and that's been taken away in this instance. And I, as I say, I think that's going to cost him.
Yeah, I was quite surprised, because it appears that this video was filmed in lockdown, so quite a few years ago now. I was quite surprised it hasn't emerged now, which is another reason originally I thought it might be fake. I just thought, how has it only emerged now? Because something like that rarely stays in this day and age completely hidden for too long if it's been sent out to more than one person, which that one appeared like it had been done. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think a lot of Liverpool fans will be understandably angry and furious and pouring back through those previous decisions. You've seen the ones being pulled up, you know, Van Dijk against Everton, you know, there was the Odegaard handball, who's obviously the referee for the Aston Villa game, which we'll get to in a second. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say one of the examples that's been put out there as well, which we should shoot down, is the Rodri handball against Everton a couple of seasons ago, or probably should have been a handball for a penalty late in that game that Everton would have equalised, and that would have left Liverpool in charge of the title race. He wasn't the VAR for that one, and yet that one has spread so much. I've seen that so many times on social media, and we should push against that, because that level of misinformation again is why these conspiracy theories kind of get out of control. So just that's one example I wanted to sort of mention that is out there. And if anyone has seen that, that isn't actually the case. I believe it was Chris Kavanagh was on the VAR that day, and yes, an incorrect decision, but not one that should be laid at David Coote's door and add to this idea that he's got this kind of grudge against Liverpool.
Yeah, that's the thing. And as I say, the fans will be angry and will jump to the conclusions, all right, he's obviously got this feeling about Jurgen Klopp, this bias. But yeah, as you say, we need to be so careful about suggesting that there was bias involved in any decisions. And as you say, this has come out publicly, so that's why it's so damaging to David Coote and to the referees. But as you say, in private, that there's so many referees who won't accept or won't like the abuse they get from managers. It's not just Jurgen Klopp, it's not just David Coote. You're not telling me that every referee has had a fond opinion of Ferguson, of Mourinho, of those sorts of managers in the past. So these sorts of feelings must exist, as you say, on a human level, must exist if you're getting that sort of abuse, if you can call it that, from managers throughout 90 minutes, whether you're fourth official referee. Obviously, you don't necessarily get that with VAR, but you can be criticised after the game, obviously, by managers after if you're on VAR. So, you've got to understand that happens on a human level. But as you say, it coming out publicly is so damaging. And I mean, we again need to stress it hasn't been verified or anything like that. But if it has been verified, and what I would say, sorry, on the bias is also the refs are assessed continually and over and over and over again. So if any even hint of strain of bias was prevalent, I think that would have been noticed by other referees who don't have that bias. But I mean, if it is proven, it's very hard certainly to see him refereeing a Liverpool game again, but maybe even at the top level, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it would go as far as maybe not refereeing at the top level again. It's just, as I say, the PGMOL is under so much pressure already. So, decisions get highlighted to a degree that I'm not really particularly fond of at the moment. Too much talk about referees, full stop. But obviously this puts even more pressure on them, to the point that they surely will feel that they have to act and take severe action. Like I say, he's in that professional environment where you cannot afford to make it slip-ups like this. And, it's a foolish mistake, and you do not want to see anyone have it cost them their career. But we all accept there are standards when we go into certain jobs, and particularly if you're in the public eye like that, and he's fallen well short of that. And so, yeah, I think the PGMOL are in a difficult position whereby I think just pulling him off Liverpool games probably doesn't, kind of cut it really, because there'll be question marks then if he refs say an Arsenal game or a Manchester City game, or the PGMOL you can't afford for that to be happening. So I think it's a bit of a sticky situation, and I wonder whether this will possibly be the end of his refereeing career, to be honest. Yeah,
and again, on a human level, it is a shame, because, as you say, he's worked very hard for that career. No matter what you think of him and his performances, worked exceptionally hard for that career. So that is a shame. And everyone's been in that situation where we've talked nonsense after parties, as it looked like it was. So yeah, it is a shame on a human level. What I think a lot of fans won't have sympathy for that, but you're right. The Premier League referees are one of those jobs that you have to hold yourself to a sort of higher standard of what's expected, and be a role model, always be completely unimpeachable at all times, basically, and not allow something like this to go out. What do you think the reaction is going to be within Liverpool, within the club?
Well, at the moment, they're kind of keeping the powder dry, so no comment expected really until the PGMOL have completed their investigation, which I think is sensible. There's no need for Liverpool to kind of steam in, but I'm sure they will. Once that investigation comes to a close and there's an outcome, I'm sure they will address it, because it's, as I say, it kind of rightly or wrongly throws up questions about the sort of integrity of refereeing decisions across the league across the last few seasons. Whenever David Coote's been involved in a Liverpool game, like, as I say, I don't buy into that, but those questions are being thrown up by this situation. So I'd say no comment expected from Liverpool at the moment, but I imagine there's a bit of similar reactions to us, stunned by it, and also probably a little bit of anger. Be interested to know what Jurgen Klopp thought about it. And I mean, he's outside the situation, so it would be great if someone could get a hold of him to ask him that and see what he thought about it. I bet he's not particularly impressed by that. But also, knowing Jurgen as well, I guess on a human level, he will probably accept that these referees aren't particularly keen on him for the way he spoke to them. He, sometimes acknowledged that himself. So, it's an interesting one, but nothing expected from Liverpool at the moment, and it will be interesting when that investigation comes to an end to see what they have to say about it all.